Welcome to the Hustle or Bust podcast powered by Paverart. Our mission is simple: to dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, small business, and all the success, struggle, and challenges that need to be confronted in the pursuit of growth. We celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit, but perhaps most important, we want you to learn at least one idea that you can put into action immediately to make your investment in time worthwhile. Today, we're excited to have Bob Phillips of Phillips Contracting back on our podcast. Bob was originally on our podcast about a year and a half ago when we were in our original studio, if you can call it what we had before a studio, tripping over everything. Bob's company provides outdoor hardscaping, landscaping, and other various outdoor home improvement specialties. But most importantly, Bob is also the founder of Hardscape Contractors of America, a website and online Facebook forum for, at last count, is it over 18,000?
It's 30,000 now.
30,000. Okay,
wow.
Over 30,000 contractors across the U.S. Bob, welcome back.
Hey,
it's great to have you back. Mark, I know you and I were talking about something that you and Bob were speaking of just last week. The Hardscape Contractors of America Facebook forum has gotten, that's hard to believe.
We've been on it for, how long has it been?
I think I started 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I started it, and for the first few years, I never really.
I bought the business. I bought Paverart 6.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember not too long after I started seeing this thing, and then participating every now and then, and doing all that. But yeah,
Sure.
The thing's grown like a weed.
And it's really taken off the last few years. And there's just a thirst for knowledge out there.
Tell us how you started it, why'd you start it, what your background was going into starting that little. How do you refer to it? A community or?
I guess I just sort of call it. We're Hardscape Contractors of America. It's the name.
Yep.
It's who we are, I guess. I started it. I came home one night after work. I parked the dump truck next to the shop, and I was like, tired. I have to go inside, get dinner, whatever. But I still had to go. We had a demo saw. It was beat up, needed to be rebuilt real quick. The carburetor was all clogged, and I was like just sitting in the truck thinking, I wonder what people are doing in the other side of the country for borders, or because I've done millions and millions of square feet of Teco Block Blue 60 with a Parisian or Villaggio border. What can I do that's different? How can I separate myself? And I was like,
sure.
Well, no easier way than going on social media. I'll start a page, and people can chime in from the other side of the country. Or
and
wherever.
That's how this got started.
And then I was like, I wonder what new cool tools are out there I don't know about that I could buy. And though I put a picture of a sidewalk we did on it, I called it Hardscape Contractors of America because it's the easiest name I could think of. And I went in the garage. I worked on the saw for a while. I was walking in the house, and there was 127 people, 128 people that were asking to join the group.
That fast? That fast.
And I was like, I should start trying to profile someone. It was happening this quick. So I was like, guys, there's 3 simple questions. I think that's like, are you a hardscape contractor, installer, supplier? How many years of business? Size of your company? And really, if people don't answer the questions, or I can tell if they're going through thousands and thousands of people who you can accept or not accept, or some slide through the cracks. But really, if you don't answer questions, you don't get accepted. And I've really profiled every person on there. So there are some complaints because there's logo companies. They sort of swindle their way in, and we get them out. But it's a little bit of work keeping it running, but it's neat to see all the information people have to offer.
Well, for those who don't know how to get on, what's the platform, and how do you get into HCA?
It's on Facebook.
Okay.
And everything's through Facebook. There is a website, hardscapecontractorsamerica.com, but that's where you go if you want to get like the swag, and there's a store and all that.
Yep.
But right now everything's through Facebook, and we do have an Instagram page, but really the main thing is everything's on Facebook.
Gotcha. Okay.
So compare where you're at today with the group, not where you're going, but where you're at today versus in terms of growth, discussions? What have you learned through the 6 years? What are the big takeaways after running this group? Because you're doing this on the side of your business, right? It's not a full-time job.
Yeah, this is not a full-time job, not yet. But it's, I guess what I've taken away is no one can do anything right on that page, that's for sure. But that's what's neat about it, the camaraderie, you know. I tell people, if you can make it through a post on this page, you can deal with any customer out there.
You can't be thin-skinned to be part of this group.
No, you can't be. I mean, but it's not really that intimidating. But some people will say, "Hey, this is my first job. What does everyone think?" You know, sometimes if I see that, I'll send them a private message. Hey, listen, if you can make it through the next 48 hours, you have a good chance of survival.
Caveat emptor, buyer beware.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Why do you send them that message? Because you know what's coming, right?
Oh yeah, I know what's coming because
You're trying to preempt
I'll
them
look at it and be like, you know, we all make mistakes. You know, you see one color green, I see a different color green, but it's you know, I'll say, hey, listen, you know, I would maybe do it this way, or you know, some guys are like, go buy a string line. Your lines are crooked, but it's you know, I tell them to hold on if they make it through. And there's a lot of guys out there, you know, they like to bust balls and all that. And that's just who they are, and that's fine. But if they get through the first 48 hours and it can handle the criticism of other contractors, because you just threw yourself out there, that take everything with a grain of salt and listen to the things you want to listen to help you improve.
Right.
And just blow the rest off.
How many think will hang in there and take your advice and?
Most of them. I do. It is nice because I do get a lot of messages like, "Hey, you were right." like I'm glad you sent me that message, because if you didn't, I'd probably go hang myself. You know. But so I think that's funny. You know, maybe some people don't, but there's a lot of people on there that ask questions. Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I think a lot of the experienced guys on there who are, you know,
the OGs.
Sometimes some of them should keep their mouth shut and just answer the guy's question, not.
Well, you were talking about that this morning. What was your example you threw at me? We were trying to refresh our perspective from a manufacturer standpoint.
Yeah.
That's part of the community. What was your perspective on? I forgot what the topic was.
Well, we were basically reviewing what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're an easy interview, Bob. I mean, no, seriously, you really are. I mean, you do so many things. There's just so many ways to approach this, but we both, you know, we're signed up. We both check out the Facebook page all the time, and I'll never forget the one post. It was a guy that he had built a wall and came to a corner, okay, and he built the corner the way he felt it needed to be built, but even when I looked at it, I'm looking at this going, no, this guy didn't have. Somebody didn't tell him how to do this properly, and you know the next 35 replies are going to be interesting reading. Okay, and about half of them basically were helpful. They were very, very helpful, and you know about 10% were okay. Here's where you need to go. You need to understand better how to put this wall together so that when you come to the corner, you'll know how to handle that corner. All right, so it's nice and neat and clean. But then there was that other 10% where the guys were going, you know, you shouldn't quit your day job. You know, that kind of thing.
Go work for someone for a couple years.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's, again, when you're talking about something where you can sign up and it really doesn't cost you anything, okay, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get some of that stuff. But if you're familiar with the field of hardscaping and the guys that are in the field of hardscaping, this is not an unusual thing, okay? And we see this here all the time. I get this on the phone all the time, okay? Because contractors are a big part of our business. And, you know, as a forum, as a general forum, you know, I think it does the job. I really do.
Yeah.
But,
Give a little background. What is Phillips Contracting? What are the businesses you're involved in?
Oh, I started Phillips Contracting in 99, 2000. I was framing houses, doing start to finish additions.
how old were you at the time?
I don't know, 25 years, 24,
Gotcha.
25. I have my degree in building construction technology. I went to Pennsylvania College of Technology, which was a real neat school to go to.
Sure.
So I started doing paver patios on additions we were doing. And I was like, oh, this is neat. It's like playing with Legos. Like sky's the limit. So we just started focusing on only doing that. And that's sort of how I got into it. And then I've always liked, ever since I was a little kid, I always liked trucks and excavators and backhoes. And, to me, what an easy way to get all this cool stuff if I just get in the industry and do it. So really, it's a neat industry to be
Sure.
in, and you get all the neat toys, and
Right.
as long as you make money and can pay for it. I mean, it is a business, and we just got into pavers, and that's all we do now. And also, I guess a few years ago, I started Wicked Waste. It's a dumpster company, because during COVID, I had more work I knew what to do with. I mean, more work I knew what to do with, and help was harder to find because everyone had COVID and needed to get taken off or didn't want to work or collect money, or everyone knows that situation. So I sat down in the office one day and I was talking to my sister on the phone, and she's all business, and she said, "What's your 5-year plan?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a contractor. I'm like most other contractors. I don't know where. I'm not past next Friday yet."
Sure.
So I always had my whiteboard in the office, hopes and dreams and things I wanted to get, and I always wanted a hook lift truck. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna start a dumpster company. And she's like, just like that? And I said, yep. And then I actually spent like 16 months. I put a whole business plan together. I didn't just jump into it. I put a whole business plan together. I talked to other companies and I figured out where I was going to go, how I was going to take it, what my plans were going to be and growth and all that. And I pulled the plug. I went all in, and it turned out to be good. And it's like everything else, you don't know how many red cars are out there until you buy a red car.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then you see red cars every day.
You see red cars every day, but I had a good plan in process, and now we're.
So how many dumpsters? How do you measure that? Is it number of dumpsters on a lot that you deploy, or what's that business model?
I went in. I guess we started with 25 dumpsters a truck, and then now we're up to 34 dumpsters, 2 trucks. We're getting ready to order another 12.
Wow.
And it's like everything else. So it's a business. You have to know how to run it.
Right.
It's like what does everyone charge a square foot? There's no square foot price. There's what's your business model? Where's your margins? Where's your money? Your percentages? It's all how much you have for advertising. It's how you have to put it together.
And your main guy is I'm doing demo day and I'm renovating a kitchen, so I need a dumpster, and I'm going to call you up to drop the thing. And
yeah.
That's
and then service. If you missed a phone call, you missed a sale. I mean, there's no
great point.
There's no. I mean, it's even like hardscaping is the same thing. But if you missed the estimate and you call them an hour later, sorry, I missed that. You lost that job.
Right.
But for the dumpsters, if you missed that phone call, they're calling someone else.
So it's time sensitive.
Oh yeah, it's very time sensitive.
What did you see? What did you see in the market that made you think, this is a business that I want to get into? What was the initiation that got you to say, I'm doing this?
I don't know. I go against the grain a lot. Actually, one of the thoughts that popped in my head was, what the teachers used to tell us when we went to school. What do you want to be, a trash man when you grow up? Yeah, I'm going to be a trash man.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to be a trash man.
There's money in that trash.
And then the name Wicked Waste, I was going back and forth and back and forth. Like, I don't know what to call it. And you look up names and you Google them and someone has that name. And I was like, well, I used to have a friend that lived in Massachusetts or Vermont. And everything was always wicked with him. And I was like, I'm going to call it Wicked Waste. And then I was talking to my mom one night and I was like, what do you think of Wicked Waste? And she goes, for a 78-year-old lady to call a company called Wicked Waste might be a little intimidating. And I was like, then she doesn't get a dumpster.
Nothing wrong with that.
I was like, if the name scares her, she don't get a dumpster.
Right.
But we, it turned out it's a great name, and everyone's like, oh, what a great name.
The color's great.
Name. We have bright colors. But it is like everything else. The trucks cost a lot of money. Dumpsters aren't cheap. Everything breaks down. You have to make sure you have drivers.
Right.
How do you compare it to the hardscaping business? Contracting.
It's better on my knees.
Is it? Well, that's real, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was another reason of getting into it, because I started thinking, I was like, wow. I came this far, and hardscaping for me, I like doing it myself. Like I like being in the field working. So
Sure.
I think my company is Phillips Contracting is a lot me. You know, it's everyone who's involved in the company, but it's sort of my passion. So I think if I would go, that would be
Sure.
sort of the end of it.
So you don't think you can sell your business?
No,
Contracting?
no. I mean, you could sell the equipment and stuff, but I don't have like a client base to sell. And
Sure.
of course, I have two boys, and I think of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and they like driving trucks, and my one son has his Class A CDL too. So you know, there's room to grow there, and the other one, then they're both great at hardscaping. So, but I figured like, you know, if I would drop dead tomorrow, at least there's something that they can take on themselves.
Sure.
You know, like here you go. This is how it works. It's set up. It's not like how would you bid that? How would
Right.
you bid that? Especially if their heart's not in it. So, you know, I just like having other opportunities.
So the waste business is a better, I guess, asset.
For
If you want to sell
me
it,
to give to my children, yes.
Right. Okay.
Because they always wanted to be part of, you know, they wanted to work for daddy when they were little kids, and you know my wife, she's in a family business too. She has a hair salon with her parents, and so they've grown up in a family business, and we always used to joke, if you're not going to lay pavers, you're going to cut hair.
Right.
So
in terms of your work, you've got Phillips Contracting, you've got the Wicked Waste, you've got the Hardscape Contractors of America, which is not a for-profit business now.
Right.
How does your time split? And is there anything else in terms of your time in the work week?
No, that's it.
Those are three. And what's your time breakout between the three?
It's my life, all of it.
All of it,
You know,
right.
I mean, it's constant. You know, my wife, she yells at me. She's like, "You're always on your phone. You're always on your phone." You know, I'm laying in bed at 2:00 in the morning. I'm scrolling through,
Sure.
you know, the 178 people who are requesting to be members today.
And you're doing it all.
Yeah.
You're doing all those confirmations or not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's constant. It's, you know, this morning I think there was like 56 or something. I was scrolling through, and then
That's a lot.
the other day there was 128. You know, and half of them aren't qualified, but you know they don't fit the. So I have to go through, and I think that's what makes the group keep growing because everyone has the same. It's not just if I invited everyone, it would
Is
probably
it
be
word of mouth?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, how do people know about your site and know about the Facebook page? I mean, because if you're, you know, it's not just going to pop up on your feed unless you sign up for it, right?
I'm sure. Well, I guess it. I don't actually know.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
Well, if you
In fact,
comment on something.
178. You just said there was one day you had 178 people.
Oh yeah, so yeah, it just. I mean, I could look right now. I don't know if I even have signal here, but if I we don't have signal in here, but I could tell you how many people since last night have tried to get on.
Sure.
It'd be 26, and then
And you vet each one.
everyone,
Wow.
every single one.
That's a lot of work.
Except
So-
the decline, I got arthritis in my thumb. I thought I was holding the demos all day, but I think it's from accepting and declining. I mean, one weekend I had nothing sad, but I had a friend pass away, and so I didn't go on any social
Sorry to
media
hear
for
that.
like 3 days.
Sure.
And I went on there, I was like, you know, there's almost 400 requests to join the page.
What do you have to
And I sit there and I cringe. I'm like, this is going to take
That's unbelievable.
forever.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it did.
when you're vetting someone, what are the disqualifications? How do you not get accepted to be on the Facebook page?
Well, if you answer the questions, you know, they're simple questions, and some people, I don't know if they get a stick up their ass about it. They'll be like, yeah, yay, none of your business. All right, done. You know, I have nothing to lose. You're out.
Sure.
You know, you don't get in.
Gotcha.
People that don't answer the questions, see, that's where it gets hard because some people don't answer the questions, and I'll click on them, and they'll have a picture of a dump trailer and a bobcat on their profile picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. That gets my interest. Now I gotta click on that, and then I look, and it's like, and I'll scroll through their page real quick.
Gotcha.
It's like patio. It's like, oh, this guy's
Right.
killing it.
And
Like,
just didn't want to answer the
he
questions.
just didn't answer the questions,
Right.
For whatever reason. So it's like, okay,
So you'll let them on.
so I'll let them on.
Gotcha.
Just because, you know, and then other people, you start scrolling, it's like, oh, this is a logo guy.
But you can see that very quickly that if you're doing it 200 times a day, that can consume a lot of your time.
Yeah.
It might be 2 hours, 3 hours. So,
Yeah, I started adding up how many hours I have, and
and what does that look like?
a lot.
It does.
I mean, sometimes it's 2 hours a day. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Some days I just don't bother because I'm not in the mood. So I'll wait 2 days, and I hate doing that because then it builds up to a lot of people.
So you've got
that's the nonstop.
It's easier to do a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there than it is,
So you got a full-time gig with Phillips Contracting. You've got the Wicked Waste, and you get your sons. They're helping you lead it.
Yeah,
all of
it. Stone and MJ.
Yep. So bring us to the point where you're at now. All right, you got this idea what is the idea? What brought you to this point? And talk about it. Just lay it on the table in terms of Hardscape Contractors of America.
I guess what my next plan is, we want to monetize it. I'm going to call it Hardscape Contractors of America. It's going to be the elite group.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be a paid membership group.
Mm-hmm.
So we can further vet the people that will be in the group and really monitor it, because there'll be less of a, people that want to be in the group. There'll still be the original one where everyone can go on and check it out and, start, say whatever they want to say. But the elite group is going to be more geared towards education. We're working on getting sponsors. We have a few companies lined up that are willing to come into the page to help out.
What's the sponsorship cost, do you think?
We're working on that, yeah.
Gotcha. Monthly.
Yeah, it'll probably be a monthly fee.
Have you figured that out? What that looks like, or
No, not yet. We're still working on that. That's.
Well, do you want to workshop it here?
Yeah, what would
Or is that dangerous?
No, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, like.
Well, remember, we can.
Yeah, I like education. What's education worth? I mean, if you go take an ICPI course or whatever it's called now, CM, whoever.
Let's go with the range on my experience with this.
Yeah.
And then you can give me your thoughts on pros, cons. I'm part of a $10 group, right? Magazine subscription.
Sure.
I was part of a $1,500 a month group, which was Vistage, very popular.
Right.
If you're a business owner or a CEO, and there's qualifiers, you got to be $5 million or more, and you pay $1,500, and then once a month, the 10 people in the group, very small. I would guess that would be the elite type thing. Small, $1,500 is real skin in the game. That's real money, right?
Yeah.
But you're coming in with 10 other business owners, and you're workshopping issues. So that could be a capital issue. It could be an employee training issue. And you've got real money in the game, but presumably you're a bigger company, or else you're not getting in. So you've got that kind of cash flow where you can invest in that. Those are like the two extremes. You got the $10 magazine subscription, and you got $1,500. So, and then you got everything in between, I guess. You got $100 groups for mentorship. That's kind of the range.
Yeah.
You're clearly not going to be thinking $1,500.
No, not that. No, because I mean, all reality, like you said, I have a lot of passion in the game, and there's so many people who, you always hear the stories like, if I was going to do this 20 years ago, and if I would have known what I know now, I hope, I've crashed it, I've broke it, you've named it, I've done it, and I could talk hours about it, but my life's been real interesting.
Sure.
So
let's hold the price off to the side.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing this full time or part time, or what do you think? Who's going to run the group?
I hope it'll become full time. So that way, it's sort of a not a career change, but it's sort of like the next step in my career.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully we can help. Like these guys come out, because when I started there was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There was I never even heard about ICPI. I learned from an EPN trifold catalog how to put a patio, but I did have the building background from going to school, from framing houses, working for some other companies. So I knew what level was, square was.
Sure.
I knew how to
The
run.
ability to think through this.
Yeah. It wasn't like well, how do I make a patio square? Well, the 3, 4, 5 method. Well, what's that? Like some of these guys are in that position, but they really want to do it. So we can help companies starting out, get the right foot forward. So it can't be a $1,500 a month.
Sure.
So it's got to be affordable, and then we'll see, how the content builds up. And they said I have a bunch of people who want to support the page as far as like vendors. We have a finance company that wants to come in. So as far as if you pay your membership, right off the bat, you're getting a
little discount or something.
Yeah, you're getting a little discount on tools.
So there'll be perks involved.
Oh yeah, it'll be worth it. So, but and then, I teamed up with Colin Slota. He's in Florida. He's a designer. He used to have his own landscape company, and he's a lot better with computers and making videos than myself. So, I've looked at a million different ways of trying to monetize this, and he just he approached me about a year ago, and I got back to him, I guess October, and said, hey, listen, you want to make this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And once again, like every other business out there, you don't know what you're in for until you really start the business. I mean, I knew what I was in for, but it's like, okay, how do I bring someone into this? Okay, but if it becomes a business, how do I do this legally?
Right.
All of a sudden, because we have the logos trademarked, the names, everything's trademarked, and that costs money to do.
Sure.
But it's neat now. The sweatshirt doesn't have it, but I get the little R. It's a circle around it. It makes it feel important sometimes.
Sure.
But so how do you do this? So you go to a lawyer, and okay, now we have a lawyer, and then you have to, all of a sudden it's the phone calls now with Colin are not. They're not. It's still want to be a friendly phone call, but hey, by the way, this is how it's going to be, or what do you think? If you have any objections, and now it's a business all of a sudden. The last few conversations were like, the dreamer conversation.
Sure.
And at some point, you're going to reach the fish or cut baits situation.
Yeah, and then you have to find an attorney and get all the paperwork drawn up and this is that and everything, and then the bills start coming in before you start making money, but. It's business, and so I'm trying to do exactly sort of what I did when I started the dumpster company. We get all the ducks in a row, plan for the rainy days, plan for everything. So if it does happen, everything's covered, and everyone's on the same page. So that being said, as long as we have everything in line, then we can even help members who join the group further.
Right. Now, what's Colin's role? Is he just going to help you out with the content, or is he a partner in the business?
He's basically a partner. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then what we're working on now is we're trying to line up some jobs to help veterans out or wounded warriors.
Nice.
So we can get products, discounted or whatever. So we can.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's special.
Yeah. So we can get even, and it will help us for content. Mm-hmm. So we can film these jobs and we have, I don't want to give away all the tidbits, but we have a lot of ideas, and then to help other contractors out, and especially guys starting out.
Can I interject a point here? And it's tied back to what you and I experienced this week down in Vineland. When you look at the path for somebody that wants to become an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, it's pretty clear. Mm-hmm. You can go to a VOTEC school, or you can go right to the union and start right out of high school if you like. Yeah. But there's mechanisms in place, not everywhere, but in some places there are mechanisms in place where you can start your career. Mm-hmm. Almost like learning to be a doctor, lawyer, and accountant. Okay, yep. But for the trades, and those three key ones are you'll find those everywhere, and cosmetology too. Find one for hardscapes.
Yeah, there's not.
And the ICPI does a good job. They get people, but you almost have to be an entrepreneur, to build that scope to the point where you're drawing in guys who are on crews who don't have the knowledge yet, okay, to go take the basic course and then take the advanced course in hardscaping.
Right.
This looks like something that could bridge that gap, okay? Information, teaching, learning. In a VOTEC school, at 14 years old, they're learning how to become an electrician.
Yeah.
They're learning how to become a carpenter.
But that's the raw skill you're talking about, correct?
Yes, the raw skill. Well,
to do things the right way.
Look at hardscaping. Yeah. I mean, hardscaping pretty much built itself. Mm-hmm. And look at your background.
Yeah.
You went to school. My guess is a lot of what you learned in school had nothing to do directly with hardscaping. Or,
but the theory behind it of how it's built is what I learned. And
do you see this as potentially being something that could
it
more or
could
less
be,
bridge that gap?
Yeah, it surely could be. Because even like you were saying, you can go to a Votech school. My son's fiance, she went for cosmetology or
Sure.
for hairdressing, and she came out of high school with her degree or certification, so she could go right out,
walked right into a job,
into the world, and have a job, and not have to go to another school to get us. Because my wife had to do that. She had to go to another school to get certified to be able to cut hair. But she came right out, and I think that's amazing. Because when I was younger, if you went to Votech school, teachers would vet you a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, you ever thought about going to Votech school because you were a troublemaker, or you did real bad in school?"
Ugh.
And they'd be like, "Oh, you can catch a smoke on the bus on the way there if you wanted." Or it's sort of like, and I hate saying it because a lot of these guys that have done it, and I never did it, but I wound up going to like a Votech college. I got my associate's degree from that, but now because I take part in our local tech school, like we go in the like once a year, and the tech, they actually bring companies in, and you walk through the school and it'd be like, hey, those tools are obsolete. They don't use them anymore. You won't even think about getting rid of them. But they try to walk you through their class so they're up to speed with you. And now it's amazing. Even me and my son went last winter. We went and took a welding class just for fun.
That's cool.
Because he wanted to learn how to TIG weld. And just the amount of, as an adult class we took it, but we took it in the regular tech school. But the amount of that place has changed over the last 20 years is amazing. It's like, kids want to go there now. They want to learn. So really when we were growing up, and hardscaping, there really is nothing. That's in the landscape department. Mm-hmm. It's not its own thing. And I know a lot of, like, we're mainly a hardscape company. We don't do a lot of landscaping. Like, if we have designs, we'll do the trees and all that, but we're a hardscape company. That's sort of how I based my business. I built it on, we do excavation work and hardscaping, and that's it. And some people are like, you know how much money you're losing, throwing away by not doing plantings and this and that? And I'm like, I'm not a horticulturalist, and I'm not going to go to a homeowner and say, hey, listen, I think you should plant this giant redwood next to your patio, because you don't do that. But it's, I'm not a tree guy. I don't know bushes. I know what I do, and that's what I focus on. But for hardscaping, it seems like my generation, a lot of guys went out and they took their dad's lawnmower, they mowed grass. They mowed the neighbor's lawn. And then, my dad used to come back, well, who's paying for the gas? What do you mean, Dad? I'm making all this money. I get it from the shed. That's where the gas comes from. And then, and then it's sort of, some of the guys like me started doing that. They went out, going to college, not going to college. It is what it is if you go or not go anymore to me. But they went out, next thing you know, they have a pickup truck and a trailer and a lawnmower. And they're landscapers. And I'm not slamming any landscapers by far, but those landscapers, when I was a kid, there wasn't mulch, it was wood chips. You went to Asfund and you give them a box of donuts and they would deliver a load of wood chips to wherever you wanted them because they wanted to get rid of them. And then, so all of a sudden you're spreading wood chips. And then now you're planting a tree or a plant. And then mulch came out. So everyone's doing mulching and edging beds now. Now these guys with these couple lawnmowers, now they have a couple lawnmowers, are now, overnight horticulturalists. They're planting trees, they're doing beds. And then hardscaping came out, and all of a sudden they're overnight hardscapers.
Sure.
And some of them are failing miserably at it. If you look on the page, you can see the comments. Mm-hmm. And some of them are killing it. They're doing it the right way. They had the education or they figured it out themselves how to do it the right way. So, like you said, there's no... If you're going to be an electrician or a plumber, I know like there's certified plumbers. There's certified electricians.
There's a way to
they're
get
certified
to that.
Through the
By
state.
the time you're 18,
yeah.
There's a way to get your certifications.
Well, and even pouring concrete. Like if I pour concrete on a job, the inspector comes out. They make sure, if it's a simple walkway, you got a stone base down, your forms are 4 inches thick. Sometimes I ask what PSI concrete you're using, if you need rebar or not. Even some of them, now it's getting cold out, they'll come out and they'll be like, where's your insulated blankets at? It's like, well, they're in the trailer. Why? well, I'm not going to pass this until I see him. And we've had a few inspectors do that to us. And it's always like,
Sure.
They're actually going that far.
Yep.
And to do a regular sidewalk with hardscaping, there's no inspection. You have to get permits, but there's nothing to inspect. They're not coming to make sure you have a minimum 4 inches of stone down on top of fabric, with your whether it's open graded or sand. And they're not making sure it's wider or what edge stain you're using, or if you're putting poly sand or how you're doing it. There's nothing. So that's why I think hardscaping for a while was getting a bad name, because it was just failing miserably, because everyone's like, side cutters, screenings, pavers, edging, because that's what you do, we're out. So and that's where the education comes in. People have all these questions, and
I think you're right on the education piece. To your point on the trades for electrician, carpentry, whatever it is, hardscaping is kind of that anomaly that doesn't have that per se. I think there's masonry programs popping up. Yeah, the Paver Pete and Ryan, the last 2 podcasts, we had the same stat that we were talking about, that when you look at America, contracting, and contracting is pretty broad, right? You got inside, you got outside, you got all different. But contracting behind restaurants is the number 2.
It's like the restaurant business,
Yeah, it's the number 2 most failed business in America. And that could be driven by a million different reasons. They don't know how to do it the right way. They don't know how to pour it the right way. They don't have the technical know-how.
Just brought up 3
You brought up
reasons.
great comments right there. I would venture to guess that's certainly top 5. It's business knowledge.
100%.
Right? There's 8% of the world owns a business. You probably have 100,000 contractors out there, if not more. What percentage of them have actual business leadership knowledge on how to run a business? Small percentage, just by definition.
Yep.
So there's that whole gap of education. To be successful, yeah, you need the know-how, exactly what you're talking about. But the business knowledge is a completely different. You need both, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Or you need a team that knows both.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So when we talk education, it's not just how to pour it the right way, how to do that wall the right way. It's how do you run a business that can sustain itself?
Not like, I need to get this job because I have my mortgage due next month.
I'm telling you, we deal with contractors all over the country.
Great point.
And the amount that are capitalized like a real business, I'm telling you, it's less than 10%.
Yep.
They're going to be out of business within God knows what. But they clearly do not know how to run a business that can sustain itself, or they got to wait for the check to come in to pay you. By definition, they are not a business. They are just taking money and then robbing
And then
Peter
all
to
our
pay
guys
Paul.
are 1099. So
Exactly.
1099.
They're doing things the wrong way.
And then they call and cry. I used to work for, did some excavation work for a mason. And he was in business for years, older than me. I kind of looked up to him, and he called me one day in a frantic, hey, I need your insurance. I need to, because he paid me as a sub, and I was a sub for him. I just went, and if he needed footers dug, we dug footers.
Sure.
So I was a sub for him. But he also had a long list of people that worked for him full time that were subs, and he got an insurance audit. So
Penalties probably.
Oh,
right?
oh yeah, he had to pay. He had to pay back insurance. He had, but to get that phone call, it's like, wow, you think sometimes, and not just him. I know there's a lot of people. It's like, wow, this guy's killing it and all this. Well, he's not paying it.
He's not doing it the right way.
Or he doesn't have the office help. That,
Right.
Because if you have office help, they need to get paid. Or I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of family that helps too. So,
Sure.
There's a lot that goes on in the background, even stuff that I can't handle half the time, or I
Right.
don't know what to do. I mean, even still, I'm fortunate. My dad, he's had his own business. He's a banker.
Mm-hmm.
He'll tell me everything I never want to hear. If I want to go ask, if I want to go get an answer, I'll go ask my dad.
Here you go.
And you usually, I mean, it's sort of like, no, you can't afford that.
Right.
No, really, I can't. I just need this. I'm getting this job, or we need this, but I've learned over the years, you have to sit down, you have to figure out your margins, you have to figure out where your money's at. And
So with HCA Elite, it's technical know-how. Do you anticipate the business know-how as part
yeah,
of the education?
absolutely, yes,
Okay.
yes. There's going to be that, and I know that there's a few companies out there that do it, and I know Weston personally from Synced Up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always happy to throw his name out. I mean, there's no ties or anything, but he's I've spoke with him a few times, and he's gone through how I'm set up for my business, and he just, well, you're pretty much how we do it. I'm sure if I signed up with him, that I would have I might have some different outcomes, or find some more problems, but we're pretty set up how we run our business. I have a lot of that figured out, but if I didn't have that figured out, hire him or a company like his because they're really doing it. And I know Preston, he has a lot of passion in what he does.
Sure.
So, or Weston, I'm sorry. He has a lot of passion in what he does. So that's a good opportunity for a lot of people. So hopefully we're going to incorporate, someone like him in our little harem.
What do you think of your, would you say 30,000 members? Mm-hmm. What do you think you're going to convert over to Elite? What percentage?
This
No
is,
way to tell, right?
Yeah, this is uncharted territory for me. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like why I want to do it. I want to see, it's sort of everything I've done in my life has been fun.
Right.
And like my dad, you can't do that. You get in trouble doing this. Oh yeah, well, I'm out doing it.
Let me ask this question because we all believe in education here, right? What percentage of the 30,000 are some type of third-party ICPI type certified? Do you think?
I don't know.
More than 50 or less than 50?
Less than 50.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I think you would advocate for some type of certification.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you definitely need, if you're going to be a business and go out and go to somebody's home, like if I wanted a patio and I wanted a company to come out and build me a patio, or I'd want to know, I'd want to do some background check. Like what do you
Sure.
kind of? I don't take my trucks to a guy who has a toolbox in his garage and an umbrella he's working under in the rain.
So the base HCA, the freebie, the one that we all know and love, right? Mm-hmm. I can go on, I can answer 3 questions. If you say that's good, or even if I don't answer the questions, you're going to do a little profile digging because you want valuable people coming on, right? What is the Elite qualification? I'm assuming it's a few higher levels, right?
Yeah, it would be more like we're really going to find out that you are a business. You're just not a guy.
Do I need to be certified to be on the Elite?
No, because I think a lot of guys that are going to want to join the Elite group are looking for education.
Got it.
So that's what we want to provide.
So that's more desire.
Yeah, more like, more desire and we can vet the people more, because if you're willing to pay X amount of dollars a month, you want to be there. It's not just someone that wants to sell logos for companies.
Sure.
And if they are, we'll definitely find them fast and they're out.
Sure.
So there will be a strict set of rules and I guess as far as the comments, because it'll be, I'm assuming it's going to be more or less like a Facebook platform.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way I guess we're setting it up, once you join the Elite group and you're all signed up, then you get an invite to the page. So no one will be able to find this page. It's not going to be public or anything.
Gotcha.
But once you sign up and you're vetted in, and I imagine we get your first payment or whatever, how that works, then you will be sent an invite and you're in.
So you intuitively know, I'm a new hardscaper, I just joined the group, and I posted my first page. You intuitively know I got to private message this guy because he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
You know what's coming.
Yeah.
Are you going to have that in a paid group? I would think that's going to be a rare occurrence.
When a paid group, I think it'll be less of an attack on a new person.
Sure.
That's where we'll try to monitor that a little bit more.
Well, doesn't the fact that I put money out of my pocket, it weeds out all the trolls?
Yeah, like if you're putting money out of your pocket to be part of a group, I wouldn't want to pay to be in a group where I'm going to get ridiculed every day because I didn't make a straight cut, or I would have done that job different than somebody else. Even some people post walkways and, you guys think, what % grade is that? I even learned something the other day. I mean, just the % grades and how this has worked. And, like I know a lot about the handicap ramps and all that, but it was like, wow, and some guys like, oh, well, it's this %. You don't need steps on that. But some guys like, oh no, you absolutely should put 3 steps in it. And the guy's like, well, the homeowner didn't want it. And then that's where the fight starts after that. Right. It doesn't matter what the homeowner wants. You have to do it right. And it's other guys like, it's not right. It's you're in the realm. It's still a handicap accessible ramp if it was a walkway. But it's a personal house. It doesn't matter. So all that mumbo jumbo fight that will be on the that we'll get rid of that.
I think it self-selects out. The moment you put money out of your pocket, you're invested.
Yeah, you're invested.
You might get a troll that slips through every now and then that just has nothing better to do with the time.
Yeah, we'll be able to find, because
yeah.
I can't look at every post on this page. I more or less look at how many how many reported content or whatever. Like people report whatever.
Right.
Some guys really get involved in it. You know, I had a guy. He went back and forth with me for a while, and he just called me names. You don't know what you're doing. You probably don't, never even laid a paver in your life. You know, I'm sitting at my kitchen table, rubbing my knees, you know, holding my fork up. I'm getting arthritis or something. They're like, don't tell me I've never laid a paver. And I'm not claiming I'm not the. There's lots of guys out there who do amazing work, probably better than me. You know, I just do it to the best of my ability, the best it should be. And I would say over the last 20-some years we've been doing pavers, I've only had one job where we've had to go back and really fix something. And it was a driveway.
Right.
It was just a dead-end street, and they said every time the trash trucks come, they come and turn on the driveway, and the edge of the driveway, they were losing the edge of the driveway. So it was like every year we're going back and fixing it, and we wound up, I dug the whole edge up, and we actually poured a big concrete base underneath it and put the pavers on it because I guess it was,
Sure.
you know, and my 12 inches of, because I do everything overkill, of stone base underneath it wasn't enough or wasn't wide out or it was a wet area or something, but that's I've never had any callbacks, so you know I sort of pride myself on that.
Well, it's interesting.
Because what we're talking about here is how do you minimize trolls and maximize value?
Yeah.
So
Well, if you're in this group with, like I said, it'll be highly monitored.
Right.
And then along with that, there'll be you know we'll have tons of educational videos.
That's what I was going to ask.
Oh yeah, we'll have lots of educational videos that you can access through a library. You know, discounts with companies, and then
Well, education's a massive ROI.
Yeah.
If you learn how to do things the right way, run a proper business,
Huge.
the return is
there's a few other companies out there that are doing this,
Right.
and they're real successful. And I know one guy, you know, he's doing. I've talked to him a few times on the phone. It's funny. We every time we cross paths. I've never personally met him, but I mean he's killing it, and he's killing it, and he's offering a lot of education. But I've had some people contact me. Hey, I don't want to travel here. I don't have that. So we're just trying to give people access to, you know, quality education, and like I said, I'm gonna give away all the secrets that. Right now, but we're going to expand it. We have a lot of ideas of how to help a lot of people.
With any idea, whether it's a paid group on Hardscape mentorship or education, there's room probably for 15 of them out there. There really is. I mean, it's a big country. So
I mean, even with 30,000 members, I'm not quite good with math off the top of my head, but that's like, if you divide that up, it's like 400 contractors in every state.
Right.
That if you divide it up through 50 states.
Sure.
So that's 400. That's 400. That's a huge amount of people. And even if, you know, out of those 30,000 members, even if, you know, there's 40% of them are actually, you know, involved all the time, because I'm sure there's some people who have signed up who've never even come back. But
Sure.
But, you know, there's a lot of people thirsting for knowledge, and if we can, you know, continue to set the bar high, there won't be guys out there, I do it for $10 a square foot.
Well, setting that price, I think, it's a critical decision, and it's not a critical decision.
Yeah.
If the value of education, doing things the right way, and surviving and growing as a business, you can charge $1,000 a month. It'll pay off if you got the right group.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't recommend that high.
No.
I certainly wouldn't recommend $25 a month. Me personally.
No.
I mean, there's got to be some real commitment there.
Yeah.
But anyway, you'll figure that out.
Yeah, and you know, it's sort of. We have some numbers we're tossing back and forth, and actually I meet with Colin once a week. He's in Florida, I'm in Pennsylvania, so there's some ground we can cover in between.
When do you plan on launching?
Hopefully by the new year.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you're close.
Yeah, we were trying for October, but that's when, you know, the lawyers get involved and paperwork wasn't signed, and it was like, well, let's get it right first.
Do you envision, once you launch, pulling out of Phillips Contracting and having your sons run it, or still do it on the side?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I'll still, you know, I'll make that call when the day comes. But we're still laying pavers. We're still, you know, but I'm 50 years old now, so, you know, I'm getting older.
Sure.
My body's starting to hurt. But,
yep.
Like I said, this is the next chapter. It's the next thing, and I always like doing things that are fun. You know, if it's not fun, I won't do it.
Right.
So that's why, like, when I started Phillips Contracting, it was fun for me because I wanted to buy equipment. I always wanted a backhoe. I always wanted a big dump truck. I always wanted an excavator, I drive in the yard. Sometimes I'm like a little kid. I'm like, look, there's the Peterbilt. Look, oh, the Dodge is here.
Right.
The backhoe. I get to drive the backhoe today, or the excavator. And then you get in with all the attachments for the machines and the lasers, and that's all fun to me.
Have you gotten any input from ICPI?
No, not at all.
I find that interesting.
I know, me too.
I wonder why that is. What do you think?
I don't know. There
seems to be a polarizing view of the ICPI in general. I don't know.
Yeah, there is a little bit. And then when open graded base came out, or not came out, but a run-in I had with ICPI was open graded base is not ICPI, and things could have changed since then. So I'm not saying just the one thing I have with them, because when we switched over to open graded base maybe 4 years ago, I never looked back. We haven't used, unless we've done 1 or 2 jobs where an engineer on a commercial job has 3/4 modified stone with the inch sand and the pavers. So we had to do it that way.
Sure.
But that's the only time we've gone back to the, I guess, closed graded. Everything's been open graded since. But they were saying ICPI won't recognize that. But you go to PICPI, the permeable pavers, they're open graded base underneath.
Sure.
And I guess it's just the pavers aren't situating into the sand and the poly sand. It's not all. So that's a toss up. I see that changing in the future, but I'm not an engineer, so I can't make that call. But that was a hang up. And I know the ICPI, I've taken all the ICPI classes. For me, that it was a game changer. Mm-hmm. But that just went back because that was the only education I could get. Because we did used to be Capital Pavers. They had, they're not in business anymore. This was many years ago. But we did a job for Capital Paver. We put them down and they faded. It was like, I don't know what color it was. It was red, autumn blend or whatever it was. And they faded. They all turned beige. And,
wow.
Out of the kindness of my heart, I went up and I talked to the guy because I drive by his house every day. Everyone called him Senior. I was like, Senior, your pavers look like shit. He's like, what do you mean? I think they look great. And I was like, remember they used to be red? And he's like, yeah, they're beige. And I was like, I was still a little bit younger. I was like, well, let me go back to the place we got them from and see if I can get some warranty work. Maybe I'll get paid to rip this up and put it back down. Genius. Well, I didn't get paid to rip them up and put them back down. But they guy from Capital Pavers came out, and he actually lifted up a paver, and there was sand underneath. He goes, "Oh, you're in good shape." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm in good shape?" He goes, "There's concrete sand under here." And I was like, and the only reason I knew there's concrete sand under there, well, one, I built it, but two, that's what the EP Henry trifold catalog told me how to lay pavers. That's the only reason why I did it. And even the place we bought the pavers from, they said use screenings because it's cheaper than sand. And I always questioned why screenings, why not sand, or vice versa. But I just did it because that's what the trifold catalog told me to do. And he said, you're in good shape because if there were screenings under here, your warranty would have been void. And we wouldn't have been in. But because they have to follow ICPI standards, that was their thing. So I was like, the hell's ICPI? I didn't even know what it was at the time.
Sure.
And he put the paver in a bag or whatever, and they sent it back to the plant because they something was wrong with the batch. They actually figured out where they were, and they figured out whatever they had a problem with their batch. That was one of the, I guess, a couple pallets that came out that were wrong. That's why they faded. I don't know, but they supplied the pavers. I did that job for free. I tore them up, but the guy said all the pavers you rip out. He was cool. He's like, when you take all those pavers out, can you go around the side of the house and make from the man door to our back patio? Can you use those and build me a walk? So it actually turned out for the good. I didn't get paid to relay them in the front, but I didn't have to pay for the pavers, and I got another job out of it. So it was a little bit of a wash. But the fact that the guy said, no one ever told me if I was an ICPI certified that the pavers would, for that company at least, would be void, the warranty. So then I took an ICPI course, and that was 20 some years ago, I bet. And then I, ventured into the retaining walls, and we got the SRW certified and the PICPI certified. But it was really all education. And I've never once had a homeowner ask me if I was certified. but it is a good sales tool. Like, I have this education, I have this, and we've done some commercial work where the architect actually required that we were retaining wall. We had a certification of retaining walls, just because of the heights, and I guess so that did make a difference. But other than that,
Well, not to throw ideas at you for your new group, but you can do a topic called warranty and do a 1 hour Zoom call for the Hardscape Contractor Elite group.
Yeah.
And you do a 1 hour session, you pre-send in the questions, and then you all talk about it.
yeah.
I mean, there's value right there.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than posting a question on Facebook, having live people like you
Yeah.
and then other people you want to bring in to conduct the conversation.
And then bringing other professionals,
or
like
bring in Paverart Pete or whoever
Yeah.
it is that you want to invite on. And
Paverart P. He's as we were discussing earlier, he's a plethora of knowledge. That
Sure.
I mean, him and a lot of other guys that work for Tiger Block, Rick Bischoff. He's my sales rep.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, if I ever have a question or even a problem, we're like, hey, should I lay these pavers? They look like they're stained or whatever.
But
It's just instead of running back to the supply house and be like, hey, can I switch these out because there's a big stain on this? It's nice to get something with someone of an answer or of authority.
Right.
Oh no, you're good. Just put it down. I'll be out tomorrow. I'll clean it up for you. You're fine. It's nothing to worry about.
Right.
Or look, this one seems a little soft. I remember during COVID. I won't say the company name we were using, but we were using the big steps, the slabs.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the mallet, and I'm just sort of just trying to get it down the one side, and it cracked in half. I mean, the 6-inch step just cracked in half, and I was like,
jeez.
"Oh, I hope these aren't like this. We have 15 of them on this site. Like if they were making it, And I finally said, no, you got nothing to worry about. And they, all right, if I have nothing to worry about, can I get it signed off on in case these all crack next year? But everything's been fine. But it's always nice to have an answer from someone above.
Sure.
So just
Well,
to have.
I find it curious that when you look at it over, I mean, we've been in business for 21 years. You've been in business for over 20.
Yeah.
You know who's good
And who's not?
and who's not.
Yeah.
Okay. You know who your chief tough competitors are, okay, when you're out there. And the one thing that I've noticed with the really good contractors, when you talk to them, just like you, they started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And they had, this much knowledge,
Yeah.
meaning very little. And they stuck with it. They got a little mentoring somewhere along the line, or they worked for someone that knew what they were doing. They worked for a mason that had, that kind of gave them the basic concepts. And their knowledge base just grew and grew and grew and grew. But it took 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What happened in those 20 years? You went through the global financial crisis, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you started the business, the hardscaping business in 2019, you saw the boom of COVID.
Yeah.
But you haven't lived through
In
a crash.
2008.
That's a lot different.
2008 was.
8 and 9 was terrible.
If you got the battle scars of going through that and surviving it and then going through COVID, that's a hell of a lot different than if you started in 2019.
There's your business.
COVID was crazy. I mean, like the phone was ringing nonstop.
Everyone looks like a genius during COVID.
And it was funny. We were walking into people's houses. I think there was only 1 or 2 people that actually they stood at their sliding glass door and just held a catalog up, and then underneath they'd have a piece of paper written and wearing a mask. And I'm out there with no mask on. I'm trying not to laugh at these poor people. Like I'm standing in the middle of your backyard. You're trying to talk to me through your phone, holding up pieces of paper.
Oh my God!
And you got a mask on, and it looked like the biggest comedy ever. And I get it, I mean,
But they wrote a check.
We all lived through COVID for the first time in our lives, and they would hold up. It'd be like 20 by 30, and it'd be like, "Do you want curves? Is that a yes or a no?" And then hold on, let me go get spray paint, and then like okay, and you come back and they're like they have to be somewhere. They're scared to go out of their house, and you get spray paint in their backyard, and like okay, good, and then. And it's like, do you want a sitting wall? And that it was just
That's
fun.
wild.
But most people, you knock on a door, they open it up, and you go right in. You want a cup of coffee? You need water?
Sure.
And I'm like, if you want me to wear a mask, I have one in the truck, but I prefer not to because, I'm still alive. But I mean, to each his own. I'm not judging anyone because I guess it was a scary time for a lot of people. But
Right.
that was. But there's we fill in. Swimming pools, we used to fill in, 4 or 5 a year, easy. We've only done like 4 or 5 since COVID because everyone's fixing them up.
Right.
Yeah.
So your point on 20 years, if I'm part of an elite group and I'm paying X dollars a month, by golly, I want someone who's been through the global financial crisis.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like, Bob. So
That's what you're paying for. You're paying for someone that has a little battle scars.
Yeah.
That's got bum knees.
There is a guy in my town. He's killing it. I mean, I remember he used to call me like, "Hey, can I rent those mats from you? Or do you have something to lift the steps up? I mean, he's killing it. I mean, he has a very large landscape company. He's got a lot of guys working for him. I never wanted that.
Yep.
For me, like I said, my passion was doing it myself and just having a small group of guys. Keep it small, keep it all. His vision. He's got a lot of trucks. He's doing real well, but he's I don't even know. I'm bad at ages, but he's definitely got to be 10, 15 years younger than me. So
it's working. It appears to be working.
It's working for him. So it's not necessarily getting the guy with the 20 years experience, but maybe getting the guy with the knowledge and maybe there's definitely a good salesman out there, but hopefully the good salesman can back up their work. Sure. But at least if you have a company, you should know what's going on.
Right.
Even if you don't want to do the work, you need to know what's going on because there's a lot of guys out there that are good salesmen and they're good bullshit artists.
Sure.
And they'll come out and be like, oh yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be done, and we fix those jobs.
That's right.
That's your sales pipeline.
Yeah, but it's and even just holding everything to a higher standard. If you go in and sell the job, don't worry about. I tell a lot of people, I'm like, you can't worry about what I'm charging. You can't worry about what you're charging or you're charging. You need to go in, and that comes down to your numbers for your business.
Sure.
If you figure out, hey, I only solidly work 275 days a year laying pavers, whatever your number may be for your area, you have to realize that all those other days of the year that you're not working, what are you doing for that? And I've struggled with that on and off all the time.
Every business does.
It's every business has their ups and downs, but it's like, that gets your payment. That comes every month. That and snow removal. That's a whole nother nightmare. But it's there's guys that a snowplow now. You go out and buy a brand new snowplow. They're $8,000. When I started, they were $2,800, $3,000. It's like I got
Sure.
Now they're $8,000. $10,000. Up to $30,000. And the salt spreaders are through the roof.
Oh,
but guys are still going out at $80 an hour. It's like, stop. Right. I was getting paid that in 97, 98 when I bought my first plow truck. Yeah. Which my dad said, well, I don't know why you're buying a plow truck. Dumbest thing you're ever going to do. We just got another snowplow last week, so. But, which not like, hey, but.
Well, the biggest nightmare with snow plowing is when there's no snow.
It's when there's no snow. But then you can still structure that business because there's contracts pay snow or no snow, or you get over-unders. I mean, so if you mix it all up.
Okay.
Fortunately enough for me, because I win at everything I do. The last 2 years, I have not had a pay snow or no snow contract, which I would have made out like a bandit because we haven't had any snow. But yeah, there's ways, and this year we restructured a little different. We got a few different contracts this year, and hopefully there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. You just have to figure out how it's going to work for you and make money.
What I learned over the years talking to the contractors that we do business with is they, if there's no snow, there's a good chance it's a warm winter. Mm-hmm. If it's a warm winter, they're laying pavers.
Yep.
And if they're laying pavers, they're making money. So it's I've got work being done at my house right now, and it's 28 degrees out. So these guys are. They'll work when there's, they'll work in the cold. And it's, the last 2 years, we've had contractors that work year round. Yep. They worked a full year.
Because we did that like 2 years ago. It was nonstop.
Right? Yeah, there you go. So.
Yeah, so we keep working, keep plugging away. And, there's no get rich overnight, that's for sure.
No.
Well, look, what you're doing, what you're about to launch is a massive need. You've proven it with your numbers, right? Going from 150 to 30,000 plus members, and contracting being the number 2 most failed business in America. I mean, there clearly is a need. That'd be another interesting question, which is why is it the number 2 most failed, and let's have a discussion on these top 2 topics
that's
and
a
have
good
a
idea,
forum on
yeah.
that. I mean, you got to break it down. I mean, I would tell you from a manufacturer standpoint, no different than a contractor standpoint. When certain contractors call, we perk up a little bit, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
If there's a major municipal job in Chicago or Texas or wherever it
You're on the
is,
first plane out of here.
and we get a contractor that calls, we perk up a little bit. Their reputation is just rock solid. And then there's 80% that we don't perk up a little bit. So what you want to be in that other category,
Yeah.
right? You want to be, when a manufacturer calls, you want to be in that contractor group that's kind of part of that, because they're going to get more referrals. Just a host of good things that happen from that. So, but that doesn't happen because you want it to happen. It happens because you run a different type of business, and you do things a certain way.
Yeah, and I guess another reason why maybe there's a lot of failures is there's a lot of money involved in it.
Sure.
And that's another thing. Just some people don't understand. Like, you have to. I'm going to go out and buy the biggest dump truck and the biggest trailer and all that. It's like, okay,
Yeah, a little risk.
Now you're $250,000 into it, and you have a couple 10x10 patios to do it. It ain't going to work for you.
Right.
And you have to figure out how to make that work.
Sure.
When you have all this equipment and then
Yeah.
the breakdowns, and we fight for breakdowns every day. I mean, breakdowns happen. They're going to happen every day, no matter what. The best stuff or whatever you have, it happens. The accidents happen. Even another thing, I always try to stress is make sure you have workman's comp on your employees. I've heard a few horror stories. We had a minor horror story, but it wasn't. It was when I was first starting out. I had a guy get hurt. Broken finger, but he went to the hospital, and it was like, he's in between jobs and trying to whatever it was, but it was I want to pay for it out of pocket, and I said even now, even if we have snow shovelers, everyone goes on the books. I don't care. I'm not doing that again. Because a broken finger costs
Kill your business.
many years ago. It was like $7,000 if you went to the hospital. But I mean, even after that, it's like, nope, everyone's on the books. And I know another snow removal company, and he's a huge snow removal company, and they had a guy slip and fall, and he got hurt pretty bad, and it cost him a lot of money. So it was, and the guy didn't even shovel snow. He didn't even. That was the kicker.
Oh man.
He didn't. He was just getting there, and he slipped and fell, and the lawsuits came, and
I would tell you, buying a couple businesses, one of the things that people look for is how much cash are you handling, either to pay employees or to take it in from customers. And it's a red flag. Almost always when you see cash or people paying under the table, you've got a business with multiple problems. It's going to happen. It's just doing things the right way, above board, with workman's comp. Too much monkey businesses going on with 1099s versus employees.
Yeah.
Those are red flags that the business is not being run a proper way.
Yeah.
And my guess is a lot of those failed contracting businesses, they're doing things like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a precursor to other things they're cutting corners on.
and it's not. I mean,
Doesn't mean they're not doing great work, but it's one of those things that you want to do things the right way.
yeah, it's not like everyone starts out from nothing.
Right.
I had nothing. I started out with a little Toyota pickup truck.
Sure.
But as I grew, I always knew what you needed, the right tools you needed to do it.
Right.
Even during, I guess 2008, we needed a dump truck, and I was like, we really need a dump truck. And I remember I went out and bought a dump truck, and my wife, I had 2 kids in diapers at home. We're still wondering where, how we're going to get through this. No work's coming in, but we did get a bunch of work, and I was like, I really need a dump truck. And I went out and bought one. I thought it was the dumbest thing I ever did. Now I don't know how many dump trucks we've been through since then, but it's sort of, you have to take risks sometimes.
Right.
But they have to be educated risks.
Well, there's a topic right there, is when you make those investment decisions.
Yeah.
And how do you minimize the risk? I mean, there's so many topics to throw out there. And
Oh
add
yeah,
value to.
there's hundreds of them, and that's where, what worked for me is I was at one point in time I was doing everything.
Right.
Like we were doing everything, and that seems like where you see a lot of landscapers, especially posting on Facebook posts. It's like someone's looking for a drywall. Oh, call ABC Landscaping. It's like, really? If you're going to hire a landscaper to do your drywall, you can't do that.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. Or some, maybe he used to be a drywaller and he's doing it on the side, okay, but how many people are doing that? Or it's like, I'm looking to get a roof done. Call your landscaper. You know, it's like, stop. You know,
Well,
call the roofer.
Right.
You know, I really think if you're going to do something, that's what you need to do. That's what, you know, even when I started doing the dumpsters, you know, I was talking with my dad about it, and he said, well, why don't you just get like 4 to start out with? Because I always wanted to get a hook lift truck just for Phillips contracting. I'm like, oh, it'd be great. I can put the flatbed on it. We can put the dingo on the flatbed. You know, we can put pallets of papers on there. I can drop it off. I can put a dumpster on it. I never even imagined getting in the trash business. That wasn't even a thought.
Right.
I just wanted a hook lift truck, or they have the switch and go trucks, which I think if you're like a landscaper or hardscaper, the switch and go trucks with the little winches on them, they're the way to go because they're so much they're less expensive, and the time, you know, that takes them on and off of hooks a lot faster. But to spend the extra, I don't know what the prices are, like $30,000 or whatever. But that just, you know, that's hours more talking. But there's certain things for certain applications. But I didn't know where I was going with all this. But
Well, you found a use for assets.
When I started the dumpster business, you know, my dad said get 4 or 5 dumpsters. Why don't you go from there? I'm like, I'm going to do that, and 3 of them are going to be on my jobs, and the other 2 are going to be out, and then I'm going to be struggling to find out where I'm going to go buy another dumpster because someone needs one and I needed it yesterday and this and that. So that's where I sort of, you know, after I talked to a bunch of other guys, you know, I talked to one guy in Virginia. He does the whole state of Virginia. He's a monster, and he's also an entrepreneur. He's in, you know, I could talk hours about him, but you know, I sort of followed his rule of thumb, and there was another guy in Scranton that really helped me out. I went up and I spent a few hours with him at his house, and he ran me through what worked for him, what didn't work for him, and he's had a bunch of companies, and he's made them and sold them, and so I knew what I was basing my stuff off of. I just didn't go out and do it, so it came back, hey, I need to get upwards of 20 dumpsters just to get started. And then sat down and, well, financially, how can I make this happen? And it's like, okay, we had some money saved up here, I had a little here, and then, okay, I'll take the risk.
You pay for it cash, or you financed it, or
some and some, you know. So
bounce. Yep.
Well, what I did, I had money saved up in the bank. So instead of using that money, I financed it. That's where you have to keep your credit good, but I financed it. But I had enough money in the bank, I could last, you know,
back it up.
8-9 months
Yeah.
and not make a penny.
Sure.
So that for the first time in my life, it was like, oh, I can breathe with this.
Right.
So that was neat. And now that business is its own business. It's not tied in with the other one. So it's neat to see that happen, and that was fun for me, especially because I got to call it Wicked Waste because you have Wicked Good Wednesdays, you know, whatever. But we have fun with that, and then so with the Hardscape Contractors of America, like hardscaping's fun for me. I love doing it. I love the equipment. I love figuring the jobs out, the elevations. What would you do in this scenario? So the next thing is like what you said. Like, what do you project in members? I don't know who's. If we start right now, how many people will be signed up by Christmas Day? You know, is it going to be 5, 10, 150?
Have you pulled any interest? I know you've
Yeah,
this out a little bit.
because I've been him and Holler trying to figure out how to make all this work, and finally the pieces are coming together. But yeah, every time like I'll post something, if we had a private page, who would be interested, and it's usually a decent amount.
Yep.
And then now once we really have something I know we're going to do, we can really promote it and go from there. So that's exciting for me. So I think if it's exciting for me, hopefully it'll work.
There
Sure.
you go. Well, we talk about work ethic on this podcast a lot, and one of the things I like about a paid subscription service of this type, especially in this field, look at the guys that own their own businesses. Those are the guys that are going to sign up.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're also the guys that are going. If they're paying, then they're going to participate. Because if they're not paying, these guys are working 10-hour days, 6 days a week. You know, they get home. They're not going to be involved with too much stuff other than their families. It's going to be hard for them to find a time to do this. But if they're paying for it, they'll make the time.
Exactly. You're right.
And I think that's key, because this is the one industry excuse me, this is the one, this is the one industry again where you're learning your bones out in the field for the most part.
Suck the life out of you if you do it the wrong way.
And that's exactly right. And this type of paid subscription service can be very, very valuable for these guys.
Well, this is the end of the year. So if you're an owner of a hardscape business and you're doing, pick a number, $500,000 a year, you got 3 employees and 1 truck, that might look different than a guy that might have a couple $1 million, 3 trucks and 3 crews. But at the end of the year, they got to make decisions on what do they expect out of next year, how much of the money that they made are they going to pull out of the business versus reinvest it back in. And, one of our old friends had a great expression, you'll change when it's too painful not to change. So if they want to get to a new level or they want to avoid some of the problems they've had, they're not just going to wish that to happen.
Yeah.
They got to change their own behavior. And part of that is what kind of bets are you going to make or little investments. Education should be part of that. Equipment should be part of that. People. There's a whole list of things that people got to kind of think through, but this is certainly makes the list. But you don't just become more successful by wishing it to happen.
Yep.
I mean, you got to do some different stuff.
I
out
wish
there.
every day.
I mean, I wish I was 3 times the size, but what
Yeah.
am I going to do to get me down that path that changes the behavior? I mean, if growth was easy, everybody would be growing 20% a year.
Yeah.
If that were
Guess
the
what? It
case-
ain't easy.
If that were the case, just
And-
take the money and go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, and that's like I said, I've had a very interesting life up till now, as far as like I said, I've broke it, I've hit it, I've watched it happen. It's been insane and a fun ride and all that. But if it's just be real with people. Like, hey, this is gonna happen. Like, actually just 2 days ago, a guy called me. We were doing some excavation work, and the one guy went back to the shop and got the truck because I needed fuel for the excavator. And then he called me because my son's truck was there, but my other son had our Peterbilt with the big trailer on the back. And I was like, hey, after you run the skid steer the next job, go check all the tires because I said some of them looked like they were a little low. Like, when's the last time we checked? You got a minute, go back it up to the shop. Well, when he was pulling out of the shop, I guess the trailer had has a little wider swing on it. He clipped my son's truck when I ran down the side of it. But he didn't even feel it, because the truck's so big. He didn't even know he did it. And it's funny because I did the same exact thing to my brand new truck I had years ago. Oh. I remember I was like, I felt like I had something. And one guy worked for me. He got out. He's like, yeah, you don't want to get out. I mean, this truck was a month old, and it was at that time. It was my dream truck. I had an aluminum bed. It was the Cummins. It was the Ram 5500s. Everything I wanted, and I just tore this thing. And the bumper was bent straight out. The tire was flat. Just a piece of angle iron that held on the tail light for the trailer caught the side of the truck and just went through it like a can opener. And then at the end, the final swing of it when we were going out, I guess caught the corner of the front bumper and ripped it straight out. So I was like. Meanwhile that night, and of course I didn't know I had to take the whole plow frame and everything off because there was one bolt in the bumper you couldn't get to. 3:00 in the morning because everything stopped that day. Like, I had to go. We bought all the plywood at the dealership. I spent probably more than I should have, but
we need to bring Bob back and just do a podcast.
Oh, you can do a podcast
all
on
the
my
stories
mess
Bob
up.
gets.
I could.
There's your content calendar for a year. One of the biggest screw. And by the way, that's not an unreasonable screw up. That shit happens, right?
Well, you learn from that stuff.
Right, and that's what I was telling my kids because even my son Stone, he called his brother. He's like, "You messed up my truck. I can't." He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I know it was only a couple days ago, but to me it's funny because I've done it 100.
Right.
It's happened. It's like, sorry, buddy. My son Stone. He just lifted the truck. It's Chevy Duramax, it's everything he wanted, and then it's right before Christmas. I watched the wreath on the front the day before, and now his brother just tore through the side of it. It's not as bad as we thought it was, but he's like, every time I look in the rearview mirror, it's broken, and then the one guy who works for me, he's like, you're gonna make MJ pay for it, and I was like, I have to see how bad it is. I was like, I have to finish work today before I go deal with this mess,
right.
But
Talk a little bit about the family business dynamics, because that's somewhat unique.
Yeah.
I got to say, I did admire the fact that you brought your son. I think Stone wasn't able to come last podcast.
No, I think I don't know.
Yeah, there were two.
Stone might have still been. He might have
that was
still
your,
been in school.
no,
I had a guy
yeah,
work
I
for
think
me.
you're right.
Yeah.
Michael
Yeah,
came,
yeah, he's
right?
no longer with
Oh, he
us.
isn't?
No,
Okay.
no.
But talk about family business dynamics, and because you've got your mother, your father, they support you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
they're-
your
they're-
two sons?
they're in it. My two sons, and my wife, but she just more or less puts up with the whole.
Right.
You know, if you don't have, that's another thing. If you like family, you know, family's everything. You know, my wife, she what she puts up with.
Yeah.
You know, she's not physically, you know, in the business paperwork wise, but you know, she lives it. The mud that comes in the back door every day, the lunch boxes, the coolers, the
She sees
piles of dirty laundry.
2008.
2008. You know, even this summer was a little rough. You know, the hey, I don't think we can go on vacation this week because we're supposed to get a blizzard. We're supposed to get snow, or how do we handle that?
Right.
Or I remember one time many years ago we went to Mexico and we had a massive snowstorm up here, and I'm scrambling. I spent like 2 days on the phone with just getting everything lined up. But we're supposed to be on vacation. But I'm calling in favors from people, the guys that work for me. I'm like, hey, is the salon taken care of? Did you get to the school? That, you know, like, holy shit, I'm dying. You know, my wife's like, just relax. I'm like, I don't think you understand. There's 18 inches of snow on the ground at home. If I could fly home, I would. And
Right.
we were driving home one day, and the turnpike was closed. We were in Pittsburgh, and I remember they closed the turnpike, and we're in our little Toyota Camry. I'm busting through these snow, just trying to get home, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna die." But and the late nights, the phone calls, you know, like even now, you know, you're always on your phone. You know, I'm accepting declining members. So you know, she handles it like a champ.
What about your sons? How did they make the choice to come join you?
They didn't have a choice. No,
They were born into it.
yeah, they were kind of born into it, I guess. You know, my dad, when I was growing up, he had an auto parts store. Him and my uncle, and my grandfather. So I always thought I was, you know, I always thought, oh, I'm going to be like, you know, I'm always going to come down to our auto parts. And then, you know, that was before Pep Boys and car warranties were real big. And then all of a sudden, I remember just hearing my uncle and my dad talk about, oh, yeah, you know, car warranties are out now. They come with 5-year warranties. And Pep Boys opened up down the road, Manny Mo and Jack, you know. All of a sudden, the mom and pop stores weren't coming in. And then environmental people showed up. Oh, this used to be a gas station. You know, hey, at all times when you're getting, I'm sorry, a kick in the dick, hey, we're going to test your ground for contaminated soil.
Sure.
Boom, contaminated soil.
Yep. Phase 3.
You know, and then all of a sudden the deposit of dirt come up, and watching my dad go through that was like, well, what am I going to do now?
Sure.
I mean, and my dad, he persevered through it. I mean, he I guess they rented the front of the building out to a Wawa, and then he you know, I don't know how you go from my uncle and my dad being on auto parts and mechanics their whole lives to they bought into a franchise, a packaging store, like a UPS store. Before there was UPS, it was Packaging Plus, and then he went into that, and that wasn't fun to me. I wasn't going to make boxes because that's what I used to do. It like from Christmas vacation from college, I make boxes filled with peanuts, packages stuff, and it was kind of neat. The neatest part about it was when the UPS truck came with the tractor trailer. I liked the trucks, so I was like, yeah, that's not going to be me. And then he wound up. They got into these, you know, they were making these catalogs for, you know, like places that make keychains with your names on. And they were shipping them all over the country, and it turned out they got rid of that, and then that's all they did. So I always saw a family business. Like, you know, I always thought I'd be. And then people I worked for, I worked for a landscape company. It was a family business. It was a husband and wife, and they ran it. And she was she's since passed away, but she was Tony. You never wanted to cross her. Mm-mm. But she was in charge. So I was always used to work in that family environment, and they treated their employees almost like their children. I mean, there was you know, they knew everything about all their employees, and they were fairly large. And then when I got out of school, I worked for another family, father and two sons, Millar sons, and they've pretty much since become my family too. Like, I still talk to them every day. I mean, they're not every day, but they basically became family. And so I always had that. So I guess it sort of just washed into my kids. And like I said, we used to joke around. My wife, like, because her parents are in a salon. If you're not gonna work for daddy, you're gonna cut hair at a salon.
Well, how young were your boys when you started to filter them into the business? And what were they doing?
Probably when they were old enough to hold a snow shovel, because they got their Phillips contracting little car jackets and they shoveled sidewalks because they wanted to go out with Daddy in the snowstorms.
Preteen.
14, 15?
Oh no, earlier than that. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean,
Well, that's good. Well, yeah, that's good to hear.
So
yeah. I mean, watch.
So they were exposed in the 8s, 9s, 10s?
Oh yeah. I mean, they were. My one kid, he was driving a skid steer. I remember I put him in. They were so young.
This is going to be good.
They were so young when they started. I used to tell them, listen, don't come get Daddy in the parking lot. If you need me, I'm going to send you out. You can be with the shoveler guys, because they all got along. It wasn't like, oh great, the boss's kids are like, and they did their own little thing. They were fine. I'm like every parking lot had a designated spot, and it was usually a street lamp or something like that. If you need Daddy, if you have to go to the bathroom, whatever you need, you go there, and I'll look over, because God forbid you come out and try to get me and I'm in a snow pile and I put the truck in reverse and you're behind the truck and I run over and kill you. Who would live through that one? So, I used to see him in the street like going like this, like, Daddy, I gotta go potty, So I mean, it was sort of.
Do you think they remember that story?
Oh, probably, yeah.
They remember what they wore that day.
Yeah.
That burned into their mind.
And then they had their safety vest on, and then we had
note.
We had the little tour of snow blowers, and it was
the stupidest fucking decision my school made, my high school, and my kids have. They made take your kid to work day optional.
yeah.
What a lost opportunity to have that emblazoned into a kid's mind.
I think they still have that.
They generally have it, but they made it now. Now they're like, and if it's optional, most of them feel the pressure of college and the test prep. So like 80% of them didn't go. Mm-hmm. I'm like So I dragged Dominic. He ain't gonna. I don't want to hear it. It's optional, and he knows what's like. He's been working here for 6-7 years, and he's 17. So similar type of thing. But,
and I had my one. Even when we used to get equipment. When we bought our backhoe, my son he was still even young. He was the first person. He drove in the dealership parking lot. I didn't get the. I always joke now, like, everything I get's not mine. It's just your guys. I get nothing new anymore. I drive one of the oldest trucks in the fleet, but they.
So they grew up in the business.
They grew up in the business, and even the other one, the first time I put him in the machine plowing snow, I was like, so MJ, I was like, it was a whole shopping center. It was the back. It was vacant. There was nothing there. It was like 4 cars. I'm like, stay away from them cars. You can go over here, and
Sure.
I'm gonna go out front. And it was 3:00 in the morning.
Well, my guess is they've been through the highs and the lows. So were they on the Mexico vacation with you?
No, I was before they were
Okay.
in the thought.
So this is when you were.
They might have been a thought for my wife, but.
I got it. But they've been through the stress.
Oh yeah,
they've seen it.
Oh yeah, they've seen me.
That's a unique thing growing up in that type of environment.
Yeah.
It's if 8% ownership, 8% of the population is probably exposed to this family dynamic of business.
Mm-hmm. And I always told them, I was like, you guys, like my oldest son, he's getting married next year, and obviously he's getting ready to move out, and they're looking for apartments now.
Sure.
And all that, but it's I always tell him, because his fiance, she's a pistol. She is 100% amazing. She's awesome, but she is a firecracker. So she keeps him on his toes, and I always tell him, like, listen, you're not married to me. You're marrying. If you ever need to go and don't feel you're married, you have to stay with me. If you want to go, because he just he's a firefighter now, a volunteer.
Cool.
And he's talking about taking more classes. I say to him, I'm like, if that you want to be that your career, go do it. He got his class ACDL. I see him look at the big truck sometimes. He's like, when are we going to get a triaxle? When are we going to do? I was like, we just really, everything happens in time.
Right.
I was like, he's only 21, but he. So I say, let's just say you want to go to another company tomorrow. Give me some warning, but I won't stop you.
Sure.
If you want to move to Idaho, so be it. I don't feel you're married to me. But he's like, no, I'm good where I'm at right now. And my other son, he's Stone. He's awesome. He does whatever I tell him.
How old is he?
He's 19 and 21.
That's pretty awesome.
And MJ, he's also he's been going out with his fiance since 7th or 8th grade. But that kid, he goes, you can't stop him. If he told me he was going to rob a bank tonight, I'd have to help him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tell him no.
Right.
So he gets what he wants, and Stone's a go-getter. I just keep him pointed, and he, yep, all right, what do I need to do? And he always amazes me because I'm starting to let him go more and more on his own. And, just the other day, I actually took a video. I was walking up on the job, and then one guy called out sick, and he was there by himself. I had to go do some other stuff, and I walked around the corner, and I was like, look how much he got done by himself. I need to not come to work anymore. But I took a video. He's going to town. He stacked all his concrete. He broke up. I mean, it was.
It's awesome.
I was
19 and 21. They served a long apprenticeship.
I was just saying, we talk about work ethic like it's an idea or a choice.
Right.
These kids don't know what it is. They just know that's who they are.
This is their
Because they've been in it since they were 7 years old.
This is what they do every day.
And they get it tough sometimes. I remember I was joking around. I guess it was last year. I didn't realize that I was really hammering on my one son pretty hard, and he
took a look at champ.
No, he didn't. Well, he didn't show me, but I knew he was mad, but I didn't, and I laid into him, and I got into him hard. I mean, if he wasn't my son, I'm sure he would have quit.
Yeah.
But I got in the truck the next day, and the steering wheel was bent, like. And I was like, buddy, you mad? And he's got a huge heart too. And he sort of broke down, but he's like, you were laying to me. I was just trying my best, and you were just slamming me. And I was like, dude, I was having a bad day.
Right.
Maybe we need a safe word. Like pineapple,
exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, how about shut the fuck up, Dad? And I was like, I don't know if you're old enough to tell me that yet. But,
yeah, exactly.
But I was like, we have to come to a common ground because I didn't realize it.
Right.
And he's
You're
like,
comfortable with
he's
it.
like,
That's
Dad,
right,
you ripped my heart out, buddy.
Right.
And I was like, man, I didn't, so there, I guess that's where families. I was like, you bent the steering on the truck, Dad. I drove home like this. I was like, brr. I was like, it's bent.
Yep.
I was like, I'm trying to bend it back. But he's there are those times. Both my sons are, one's half of me, and the other one's the other half of me. So I know what I'm dealing with.
Right.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that Bob's pretty much the image of success, just based on what he just said. That's pretty good. It's, and when you've got family in the business, you've got people you can trust.
And it is neat to me because you get to watch your kids grow, but for the time being, I get to be with them every day.
I know. That's cool.
Whether I want to or not, or they want to or not.
Yeah.
So like right now, they say it's snowing at home. I was driving down here, my phone started blowing up. So, I called them. It's not like, they better answer their phone. If they don't, their mom's waking them up. They were awake, but it's like I have to call an employee right away and hope he wakes up because I told him, hey, we're not going to work today because the weather's shitty, or
right.
It turned to snow, and some employees don't have that.
Sure.
I'm one of those guys. They say snow. I'm like a kid in the window looking outside. Is it snowing? Yeah, is it ready to go?
Yeah.
Right.
Just because I love the snow, but
Sure.
some guys are like, oh, I didn't even hear my alarm. I didn't know it was supposed to snow. It's like, well, you don't watch your phone like I do. You don't watch the Weather Channel like I do.
Right.
You don't have those apps that we pay for like I do. What do you mean you didn't know it was supposed to snow? Well, you didn't tell me.
5 pages on your iPhone.
Right.
They're loaded with apps.
Yeah.
Stuff that you generally use too.
Yeah.
Well, did you have any other subjects or questions that you wanted?
No, I think we've covered a lot of
We
ground.
covered a lot of ground.
What did we miss that you wanted to talk about? Relative to either the launch of the group or important words of wisdom?
Really, I think to me right now, the launch of the group is something neat.
Yeah.
I really.
Where would somebody go, or hasn't that mechanism been built yet? Where would they go to
The Hardscape, to the page, the regular Hardscape Contractors America page is
Facebook page.
There will
On
be signs.
Facebook.
Yeah, there will be signs. You'll know.
And
Gotcha.
you're anticipating sometime in January?
Yeah. I mean, initially, it's hopefully the first of the year,
Sign-ups,
but
yeah.
but definitely in January sometime. Keep your eyes out.
You realize you've done this podcast. Now the pressure's on.
I know it's
As a-
happening. Yeah.
I got to get Dominic to publish this
we-
by
like I said-
January then.
I
Like I
say
said,
that
we
very
were
cute.
really hoping for October at H&A.
Yep.
Colin had a booth there for his design company, and
Was that his first year at H&A?
I think as having a booth, yeah.
First time?
Yeah, and then so we sort of set some banners up for Hardscape Contractors America, but it really wasn't I guess H&A, there's another wing. I never even knew it existed. So a lot of people think, it was sort of like a soft launch, I guess. But even just walking around, it was pretty neat. Some, everyone, because we were wearing the shirts and
Sure.
stuff, and one guy came up. It was him and some other guys and their girlfriends, I guess. And she asked, she goes, "Where can we get those? Is there a booth? Are you selling those shirts?" I was like, "No." I was like, "You can go on to the there's an online store." And she's like, I was like, "If you go to the store and get it," and it was funny. Her, I guess her boyfriend, he grabbed her, and like I'm far from famous or anything like that, but he grabbed her. He's like, "That's him. That's the guy who has the page." And to me, that's where
That's cool.
the flood of questions. I probably talked to him for an hour and a half. The flood of questions he had, he was just asking questions. I mean, he even was pulling up. I don't post on it a whole lot.
Yep.
But he remembered to post and this and that. And, and it was so neat talking to him because he was younger. He was probably in his early 20s, and he had he had the desire, the drive. He wanted to know all the answers and all the mistakes and everything that moment. And it was like, hey, so I talked to him. I told, and he was so happy.
That's great that you took all that time.
And then I got to actually put in my little dig to Paver Pete. He actually, Paver Pete that night, he's like, we have to talk. He's like, some guy came up to me. He said, "You know who I met today? Bob Phillips." And he's like,
cool.
"I'm Paver Pete." But it was funny. It was neat to see, because I used to go to all the Teco show places. I still do, but I remember the first one I went to, I didn't know who Paver Pete was, and I saw him, and he was talking. If you had told me, I was going to make $5 million going out of that show that summer, I was going to make it. But he had you fired up, and he was so knowledgeable. And I remember I was looking at my mom. She just retired, and she looked like she looked like a kid in a candy store. She had no idea of the volume of what's involved in it, and she sucked into it. And I remember I elbowed her. I'm like, "What are you doing with the rest of your life?" And she goes, "I don't know. I haven't thought about it." I'm like, "You want to answer some telephone calls?" And
My Paver Pete, the vibe that you're kind of transmitting there.
The
He
energy.
starts talking about ovens and cooking steaks and the temperature and all this. I'm like, by golly, I want to do an outdoor renovation.
Yeah.
Because whatever he's talking about right now, I kind of want to be a part of that. I mean, the passion and knowledge he has is just, the industry's lucky to have it.
It's insane, and it was always funny. I always looked at it like I used to go to all the Teco Block showcases, and then EP Henry had Mott's, and there was Bill Gardocki, and he had I just sort of everything he talked about. It was Interstate Landscape, and they're no more. But his son was it used to be he's called the Dirt Ninja now.
Cool.
And I used to follow them. He's like on YouTube, and they have a big excavation company now, I think. But every time I would see where he was speaking, I'd go to his classes. Because I wanted, just everything he did. I based my company off. They got a new Topcon laser. I went out and bought the new Topcon laser. They lost me at the Tri-X on the bigger equipment. Until more time went by. But I was like, everything they did, I followed them, and I started basing my business because I had no one else to. How do you do it? So it was sort of, years later, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, Mark Fuss from EP Henry, he approached me, "Hey, we're doing Mott's again. Would you want to come down and be a presenter?" And I was like, "What?" Because I used to always think, how do I become that guy?
Right. Pretty cool.
How do I become that guy?
Well, we went to your presentation.
Yeah, and
You did
that
a
was the
great
whole.
job.
That was the whole thing. It had to be taught this way or this way, and I said, "Hey, can I teach it like a?"
And then you brought your guys.
A real,
which was big to you.
Can I do this like a real life scenario? I want to start this job as it's going to be not that awesome cover photo job on every catalog because there's only one guy who gets on the cover. What about the 350,000 other ones? So we started that job like it was its own job. And I literally had masking tape on the floor and said, we're starting at laying pavers 101. This is how you square it up. And they had the camera so they could see on the screen how we squared up the 3 to 5 method. And then we built half the patio first. And really, I think I started out I'm like, okay, so this is everyone's first day on the job. Meanwhile, I'm as nervous as they come. I was,
Yeah, I was you didn't show it.
But
you
you stand there and it's like, you start looking at people and you're like, okay, that guy was out late last night. He's not going to make it another hour. And you see that guy over there. Oh, I will never be as good as him. Oh, look at those crew. They're totally interested, and then all of a sudden you get that boost. It's like you get over I'm being judged.
Yep.
Because everyone's
Right.
judging you all the time, and
Right.
they want you to mess up, or they really want to learn. So I went on. I was like, so it's your first day on the job. You have that brand new $90,000 skid steer out at the road with that overpriced operator that you hired, who's an operator, and you're down here with your new $2,000 Transit because that's what you need to be a professional, and you're now realizing that when you did that estimate, you remembered it was cold and rainy that day, and you did quick measurements, and now you figured out, well, I need 5 steps coming out the back door, not 3. Mm-hmm. Maybe I have to put a landing in this. Oh, I didn't have that in my price. I can't really go back to the homeowner now and say, hey, I screwed up. I'm going to need more money. I mean, like me, I always eat stuff like that. Like,
Right.
So I learned to not mess up down the road. That's 20 years later, But then you hear that funny sound that you've heard before, but maybe not really, and you're curious what's going on because your 2 guys that were carrying all the tools from the trailer to the back are now your shadows waiting to see what they can do next, and you're trying to figure out how you messed up, how you're going to make it happen, and where's your pavers or your stone at that were supposed to be there 2 hours ago, nothing here's yet, and I got to make this phone call, and I'm losing $175 an hour right now, but what was that noise? And you walk around the corner of the house, and that brand new skid steer you see with the overpriced operator has slid down that grass hill in the morning dew, went through the privacy fences, now tangled up in the swing set. But that's not the noise that really triggered you. It was the neighbor's coffee cup hitting the patio as he dropped his coffee cup as he saw on his brand new patio. That now he saw what happened, and you're like, that has not personally happened to me, but I've had major upsets like that. How do you recover from that? And that was an instant draw. Everyone was like, what? And I said the same thing. I was like, oh, I've done a lot of things to a lot of places, and things have happened. But how do you recover from that? Because it's going to happen. Maybe not all at once, but it's going to happen. You're going to run through a fence. You're going to dig up a gas line. You're going to.
Yeah, Mike and I were, before you came, he asked $1 million question. Is, all right, if I'm going to pay X number of dollars per month to be part of this group, we're speculating. What are they going to get for that?
Stuff like that. Yeah.
We just answered the question. We're going to get your 20 years of experience.
Yeah. Bingo.
And that's what it is right there.
Yeah.
Exactly and then your challenge is going to be if 5,000 people or 2,000 people sign up, how do you manage it all?
Yeah.
And at what time do you go full time? And that's going to be your challenge.
Yeah.
In my mind.
And like, we would sort of want to make it, like if you're in that group, you'll have access to contacting us, I'd like to say 24/7, but
right.
If you
You'll
call,
have access.
So we'll help you out or whatever. Even like I said, I could talk about stories, but I had a friend pass away last year. He was a real good friend, but I wasn't going to work that Monday, and we were doing we had to work with a plumber, and he had to relocate his sewer line, and everything was marked out. I mean, here's the gas line, here's the electric, here's the da 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 da, and we exposed 6 feet of the gas line. I mean, but we had to go underneath it. And we exposed, and I was sitting there, and my son, he was digging with the digging bar, solid hard clay, and he's digging, and he nipped it, and it sounds like a steam engine. And he looked at me because he's never heard it before, and I've never had a gas line before, so I was like, I didn't know what to do, and I was like, oh no, and the smell, and then the noise. You see a plumber pop up, and he's a little high-headed, and we had a vac truck in the street, who knows how much they're charging an hour. I thought a tire blew on the truck, and I was like, and I smelled it, and my kid's like, oh, I was like, shut everything off, and the excavator's still sitting there, so it almost looked like the excavator did it, but it didn't for once. But what do you do in that scenario? Like, this was like definitely a breaking point for me. Like, man, my best friend just died.
Sure.
Less than 48 hours ago. Here I am. I wasn't going to work today, but I knew I still had to work, and we promises. And then,
it's amazing.
What's the first call you have to make? Oops, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Sure.
Like when you have to go to the homeowner. Hey, my guy backed into your car, or that tree you didn't want me to damage. The excavator hit it and took some bark. You got to call 911 and say, hey, I fucked up.
Right.
And then the fire engines come. And of course it's on a main road. There's a school across the street. Then the fire chief shows up. Then the police cars come, and then. But the first person you talk to, which kills me every time, it's only happened like 2 or 3 times. The first person always shows up is the adjuster.
Oh, yeah.
The adjuster for Pico or for the gas company. And it's like, man, I'm leaking gas. You're like, this truck, I don't know what we're paying them an hour to sit out in the street. The fire, like, what, you're going to tell me how much I owe you right now? How did that happen? And you got to tell them. And then you see the neighbors getting evacuated. And then the homeowner comes home and he blocks the road with traffic where, your guys are trying to direct traffic because the fire company's not doing it or the police aren't doing it. It's like, and this guy comes up and starts yelling at me because the very first thing we hit that morning before the gas line was the water line. Because, it was marked and we found the water line. So we were digging around the water line. But here the one we found was abandoned. There was the working one.
It was a decoy.
Yeah, the working one was literally 10 inches from it. So after we found it, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's going to be a good day. I'm like, thanks, Rob, for looking out today because I didn't need a world of shit.
Only over here is the
next
real
scoop. Water all over. So the homeowner knew that because his wife called and said, they hit the water line.
She did the water and the gas line in one visit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, I'm dying right now. What do you do? So like, this happens. Maybe not in that thing. So the water line we were good for because we didn't have to. Like the plumber, he was able to fix that, but it was like we had the shut off kit, so that they're easy to fix. But the gas line, they got to come out and fix it, and then they come out, and then the cop's telling me, he's like, you're lucky. I'm like, why is that? He goes, lucky school's not in session right now. It was right at the end of summer because we had to evacuate. I'm like, you're shitting me. This can't be happening to me right now. And then the plumber. I'm trying to keep my cool. I was like, this is the worst day of my life. And then the plumber comes over, starts yelling at my kid. And I know him. I've known him for years. We've done so much work together. And, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I lost it. It wasn't good. I lost it to him. I was yelling at the cop. I was yelling at the fire chief over here. and then the adjuster, I was like, I ain't got time for you. And I was like, I was like, I'm leaving. And they're like, you can't start your truck. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
That's right. You can't start that.
Those are the battle scores.
So you have to suck these things up, and I can sit here and laugh about it now. I mean, it was a very bad day. And I've definitely lost my cool probably, a few times in my life. Not many, but that's one of them where it was like, I was out of control.
It was a shitstorm.
I was out of control.
Yeah.
The only thing that stopped it was when they told me I couldn't start my truck to drive away because it was right next to it. I was like, I can't even leave now. But when you say your kid, my kid saw it, and for him to suck it up, it was a complete accident. He just nipped it. I mean, because they're plastic lines, he just nipped it. I mean, it happens. And that's what sort of you want to be part of this pay group. I'll tell you stories to make your head spin. But
look, surviving a shitstorm, which is what that was.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Things like this happen. They happen all the time. I mean. That's why they have all these crazy YouTube videos of dudes, rolling machines over, doing this, doing that.
Right.
You always see the accidents of the trucks on the side of the road because the trailer jackknifed. Everyone's like, oh, what an asshole! Doesn't know what he's doing. Well, it happens.
Yeah.
And it happens when you least expect it.
Look, the industry needs this. I think I've always said, and I think I've been advocating this for you for a while now in terms of paid membership. The industry needs people focused on quality and lifting each other up, not tearing each other down.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we
you got to pay for it. You got to do that. And you got to educate.
Yeah, we hope to educate to help you be as perfect as you can be. Because I joke around with my kids all the time. I'm like, look at that, it's perfect, just how I planned it.
Sure.
And my kid's like, Dad, you messed up 5 times getting to that. I'm like, yeah, it's perfect, just how I planned it.
Right.
And so to help people strive to be perfect.
Right.
Knowing that you're gonna hit hiccups on the way, but. This is the realization of it, of every business, of every facet of life. It happens. So that to help people, it's like, okay, it's all right. So.
Good stuff. Look, best of luck on this group and anything we can do. We'd be happy to help you.
Yeah.
Any which way.
And we invite you to come back.
Yeah.
We're probably going to invite you back after you launch.
Yeah.
To,
workshop something.
Give it 6 months.
Whether you ask for it or
workshop
not, we'll give you an opinion.
It'd be great. Now, I mean, it'd be neat to get Colin because Colin has a.
We'd love to have Colin.
Get Colin down and have him join.
Yeah, Colin, he's a little more serious. He's got to focus, and he's willing to help, and he really genuinely wants to make this thing take off.
Good.
And that's, like I said, I tried going a couple different avenues, and I'm sure they would have worked too, but this one seemed more easy for me. I sat down, I called him with them, like, hey, listen, last year you approached me, and he was a hard hitter. I mean, he really tried. He's like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I was like, well, I'm thinking I have a whole lot of doors to walk through right now.
Right.
You're the first one to open one, so I went back. I'm like,
Check that box.
Yeah, I was like, what do you think? And, Mark Fliss from EP Henry, he really helped me open my eyes to what's here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I definitely have to thank him.
Oh, Mark's a good guy.
He's a
We
great
say that
guy.
about
Yeah.
Mark all the time. Mark
Yep.
was the first industry person in hardscaping
Yeah.
that supported this business, and that was 21 years ago. And
So you never forget that.
you never forget it. And the reason I don't forget it is because he was pretty much by himself when he did that.
Yeah, and
Nobody
he was
else-
on ICP. He was on board for ICPI.
Yeah,
And,
I think he was also part. He's also has done some work with NCMA.
Yeah, we got to drag him off the sidelines in retirement,
Yeah.
even if it's
Yeah,
a few
you
hours a
gotta
week.
get him out of
Get him out
yeah.
of the gym.
Just
Right.
tell me you'll take him out to dinner. He
Yeah.
always likes to go out to dinner.
He looks too well adjusted. It kind of makes me mad every
Yeah.
time I
Yep.
see his Facebook
Yeah.
post. I feel a little
He
envious.
looks
of him.
good.
Yeah, he looks
does
great.
look
Yeah.
good. No, but
Him and like there's a lot of people in the industry, which is real neat to me because you see all these people and they say how I always said how do I get there? How do I become that guy? How did he do it? Not that I don't want to be him, but how did he do it? Because I used to sit back all the time.
always makes for great stories.
Yeah, how does that company have all that stuff? How did
Right.
they do? And it was really one of the best things I ever did was stop worrying about how did that guy do it.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, be
Yeah.
the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and there's always looking up. There was Mark, there was Paverart Pete. There's just a lot of people in the industry, and then it turned around when we did the Mott's after I was done that show. I guess I don't know if it was the first year we did or second year we did it. The guy from Interstate Landscape, Bill Gardocki, he came down and he was sitting front row in the seat because I remember the first time I met him, I was on the escalator going down. This many years ago. This had to have been 18 years ago. And I was on the escalator going down, and he was behind me, and I felt like I was almost starstruck. I was like, I have so many questions to ask this guy right now. Like, where do I start? And I was like, hey, I'm Bob Phillips. He's like, he goes, I'd love to chat, but I got to get to my next class. I'm like, well, there goes that idea. And then he came down, and I met him a few times since then, but he came down. He was actually, halfway through one of the shows, he came in, he sat there for like an hour, and it was right towards the end. And I was like, shit, there he is. And I went over and I was like, hey, I was like, came and sat down. I got a little nervous. He goes, no, I heard. He goes, he sort of remembered the first times we met and all that. And I thought that was pretty neat.
Cool.
When you talk about the industry as much as we can be each other's pain in the ass, to have someone, he's like, I heard, I was teaching upstairs. I seen you. I wanted to come check it out. So it was like full circle. So
Bill
but,
writes for Hardscape magazine, and has done. I used to read his articles religiously.
Yeah.
He's a very smart guy, very smart guy, and he and his son, they had their own business up north.
Yeah.
But well, great podcast. Thank you, Bob.
We have plenty more for next time.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. We got plenty
Well,
more
good
for
luck.
next time.
Good luck with the launch, and we'll be here rooting
Yeah.
for you.
We will
Yeah.
follow you up. Anybody that's interested, please, if you've listened to this podcast and you liked it, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate that. Give us any feedback that you can. We appreciate that also. And well, Bob, thanks. Have a safe trip back
Yeah.
in that big Ram that you have out there.
Yeah, right.
That thing is the biggest Ram pickup truck I've ever seen. No, but safe trip back, and good luck with the launch.
All right. Thank you.
Good job.
All right. Thanks.